Hello, it's time to get started on our class this afternoon. Welcome everybody. Um, I think Chris said he's going to be joining us in a little while, but I think since we decided for 10 o'clock and to keep things going, I will move things along. Um, Yolanda is shown as away, but I hope she's going to join us soon. So as we do on every Tuesday, start with a list of reminders to turn your phone off or put it in the drawer so nobody can hear it. I've made sure I've made mine go silent. Remove any distractions. I'm in a dark room with one light above my desk and all the doors closed and it's late at night. And I also put gather needed materials. I usually have a notepad or something I can take some notes. We won't be needing anything today, such as your books or anything, so I think we're okay with that. So let's move on to the rest of the pre-class checklist. Would you give me a green check if you can see that record button on? Great. Let me see if I can clear this. Oh, there's a clear button. Nice. How about there should be something in the upper right-hand corner. I'm not sure what it is, but to show that we are following, it might say slide 2. Do you have something up there? Normally, Sherry has something that says quality check. Can you give me a check if you've got that? Slide 2. Okay, great. Thanks. I guess I can label these slides in some other way, but that's fine. Just so we know that is up there. And finally, since you're responding, it seems like you can hear me. So let's give one more check for the audio. Great. Okay. We are in communication here. And the next thing, instead of a Zen power of stones, I thought we should just work on our creativity tonight. There'll be a couple of times where I'll be asking you to do some brainstorming, come up with some ideas. I thought this was a good place to start. By the way, as an aside, in this electronic world, I find if you go to Google and type "keep calm and," you will get a list of thousands of vowels to follow that. And I won't go into all of them now, but it's really quite amazing how creative people have been out there. All right, so quickly, our objectives today are relatively short list. We're going to go over some of the results of the survey about faculty attitudes on technology that we got in class earlier by Straumsheim, Jaschik, and Liederman. Excuse me. Explore some of the pros and cons of e-learning technologies and educational technologies, and determine when e-learning can benefit the educational experience. We'll end up with a rationale for the practice of blended learning. So we're going to start right in with the some of the results from the survey, and I'm going to throw out here some of the tables that were on the that were in the document on faculty surveys. The first thing that struck me in this is that there was a good deal of comparison between the faculty and technology administrators, and they agreed on a lot of the points on what their attitudes were. For instance, they agreed that educational technology improves student outcomes somewhat, and you can see that from looking at these two columns here, looking at all of the faculty members on this. Let's see. Let me get my pointer up here. In this section. Chris, welcome. We're in the midst of things here. Sorry about that. Yo. Okay. What I want to do is sort of we're looking at all of the faculty members here and comparing that to technology administrators here, and they obviously split up all the faculty into different categories. But I'm just interested in looking at the total sum, all the faculty members and all of the technology administrators. And with regard to uh, whether they have the attitude that educational technology improves student income, they're relatively positive about that. And about 75% of the faculty here um, think that that will improve outcomes somewhat or significantly, and a similar number, maybe a little bit more of the administrators feel that way. But the important thing is that let me try to clear this. Let me see. No, I'm not going to do that. The main issue here that I want to point out is that most of these were in the somewhat improved, but 55% here, and I think 56, 58% here. So they thought that educational technology was a positive aspect, but they weren't all that impressed with it. It was somewhat beneficial. They also think that it was probably worth the cost. Again, looking at all the faculty members and all the technology administrators, overwhelmingly, about 2/3 of the faculty felt it was worth the cost, and about more than 80% thought the administrators, or of the administrators, thought it was worth the cost also. So they were both of these groups were agreement in this case. Where they disagreed um, was in the looking at these two groups again. Where they disagreed is in the comparison of educational technology to in-person education. So looking basically at online versus face to face. Um, and I wanted to focus on the last two groups here. If you go from strongly disagree at the bottom to the statement up to strongly agree, there's in the faculty members there's significantly amount of weight on that bottom side. So the question they were asking is given at the top here for dealing with 4-credit online courses. Question was, can a student achieves outcomes that are at least equivalent to those of in-person courses? And most of the faculty members kind of disagreed with that. It was about 53% of faculty didn't think that online was equivalent, whereas only 10% of the administrators. So there's a great disparity here. Um, and what reading from the survey, and I would quote, a larger portion of technology administrators than educators say online courses are of better quality than in-person courses in each of 8 areas. However, in none of the 8 areas did a majority of the tech administrators say online was better. I've gotten ahead of myself a bit here, but I wanted to put this out to to ask you to brainstorm a bit, and let's give a few ideas. Why do you think there was that disparity between what the faculty felt the value of online courses were with regard to student outcome compared to the administrators of that technology? So put some comments in the chat box if you can. Lack of personal touch and interaction. Yeah, so they're missing. But is that going to? The question, is that going to affect outcome? Um, in some aspects, I think we can see in terms of the social presence that may have some effect. More difficult to lead the course online, but that's relating to the teaching presence, I suppose, right? Why do you think the administrators had a better view of it, though? Any thoughts on that? More cost effective. All right, yeah. So they're looking at the bottom line, but although they both felt that it was worth the cost, they may have been more familiar. Okay, they meaning the administrators or um, the educators, Yolanda. The educators. Okay, right. So they're seeing there's maybe some disconnect with being able to lead the course, being able to have a social presence, and then maybe interfering with the outcomes. Um, a couple of things I thought of it. I didn't print these out, but I thought the administrator may have been hyped up a bit, and maybe that's to deal with the cost effectiveness of it. They have this new technology that's coming in. Maybe they're not using the technology correctly. They meaning the educators. They may not have training or appropriate um, pedagogical training or understanding in order to use the technology to its best advantage. What came out of the survey, and I'll quote again a few things here. Um, Faculty members who have taught an online course turned out to be more optimistic than their counterparts who have never done so about the quality of the online learning, particularly at their own institution. Um, it turns out that 28% of the faculty who have taught an online course think that online courses can achieve equivalence to face-to-face. Those are the educators. But this compares to only 12% of those who have not taught a course online. So there's a disparity there. It's still not great at 28%, but there's clearly a difference between those who have taught the course, taught an online course, who have some experience, and those who have not. So when they broke it down a little bit and looked at the uh, different aspects of the educational interaction that takes place. Um, there was clear difference between those who were experienced with online classes and those that were not. So in the experience of the experience group, for each of these, there was a significant disparity. Interaction outside of class and interaction at the top, and interaction during class. Those who were experienced thought that it was that online was equivalent or rated better. Uh, Grading, um, those with experience thought it was better, reaching both the at-risk and the exceptional students, being able to answer student questions, and interestingly enough, delivering content. Those who had experience thought it was just as good. So for many people, this new educational technology is defined in Garrison's book, a disruptive technology. It's counter to the standard university, the standard of university education, and in many K through 12 classes, the lecture, standing in front, kind of like what we have here. Things haven't changed too much, perhaps, since this picture was taken in many classrooms, and so changing this status quo can be a problem for some people to make that adaptation. And I'll give you an example of a case study. One of the first um, uses of educational technology or Web 2.0 to teach and deliver content um, was back when when I was at Wright State, I'd been here maybe 3 or 4 years, and we were I was teaching in the medical neuroscience course, and it was decided that we would do a lot of our lectures as video lectures. So what we did was we took our PowerPoint slides, which was our standard way of doing it, and we would narrate them into a machine, kind of like what Snagit does for us now. It would we have an audio track, and we would go through these slides. And I sat down in this dark room like I am now, and I narrated this lecture, and then I listened back on it, and I thought it was awful because I was making mistakes. I was having to go back and change words and change sentences. So I made a second step into this and tried to create an actual script that I read. So I more or less dictated what I had, what I was going to say for each slide, edited it so that it made sense, and then went to slide by slide and I created it. The result was that there was no improvement in the students' scores. They weren't learning neuroscience any better. In fact, there was some evidence that they were doing considerably worse. So why do you think that was the case? Let's go through another brainstorming chat session here. Why do you think the videotape lectures that we did for these students, so they could watch them whenever they want, why do you think it didn't give a better result? Any thoughts on this? No interaction with the students, right? That's sort of what yeah, same. So we weren't, again, we didn't have that social presence and perhaps a certain amount of teaching presence also. But what about the content that we were giving? Was there really any difference in what we were teaching? Again, go into the chat room and give me some comments about that. Yeah, basically the same. What's the difference? What happened in the classroom? Yeah, exactly. So that was it. We were. That's what I was fishing for here. The input was the same. We were given a lecture in class. We were given a lecture on video. So with that same input, we're going to get the same output. So if it's just as good going in, it's going to be just the same coming out again. And of course, some of the faculty did not edit their lectures and try to make a script as I did, which made it even worse. So that was something that we learned, and within a year or two, they dropped that whole concept. So let's look a little bit at the education transaction, and what has been evolving since these early days of video lectures and so forth is some research into what goes on during the interaction between the educator and the students, and looking to see whether there are opportunities there where educational technology may play a role and may be beneficial. So maybe the benefits of educational technology may depend upon how it's used. We'll take a look at where and when these technologies can be advantageous next. But first, let's review a little bit of the community of inquiry concept. This is I really like this slide here because it not only shows the components of teaching presence, cognitive presence, and social presence, but where the overlap is and what's going on in those overlap periods. I view these three components in this way. Teaching presence sets out the plan for the course or the educational transaction. It's the curriculum, the specific activities, the facilitation, the oversight, and the management of the students' work. Social presence sets the environment for learning, in my mind. It's the strength of the communication channels. I think them as channels among the students, and between the students and the instructor. Cognitive presence is the educational exercise itself, the content and the discussions that take place to build knowledge, the discussions and other activities. So educational technologies can really play a role in each of these. I'm going to concentrate the last few minutes here on the cognitive presence and see where the technologies, um, the educational technologies can play an important role. So dissecting a little deeper, if we look at the cognitive presence, this conceptually can be divided into 4 sequential steps that are defined by this practical inquiry model. We start with a triggering event down here at the bottom. I circled around. This is uh, the thing that grabs a student's attention, makes them want to keep listening to you and go a little bit further, and began the exploration phase that progresses to integration and then finally resolution, going around this circle again. So what I want to do is have you use the checkbox here and give me a check if you think. We'll start with each of these going in order and see if you think that educational technology could have a significant role in each of these. So let's start with the triggering event. Do you think educational technology would have a role there? I would give a check if it's yes. Chris says yes. Okay. Want to pop on the microphone just a second and give me some reason why you think that would work well? Whoever, just yeah. Yeah.
Oh, is Chris on already? Okay. Oh,
nope,
that's me. So you can use technology to maybe poll people to get their ideas of what your topic is, to get their ideas and compare your ideas to. I'm sorry, I'm brain dead. So I think you can, but I'm not really sure why. Sorry.
Okay, so yeah, but to get their ideas, I think that moves a little bit into the exploration phase. What I found in Garrison is that that it's better to do this triggering event in a face-to-face situation. The initiation of the discussion is better paced that way because, as you maybe suggest, through polling and so forth, you can get some feedback, but I think there's more energy, more discussion built up in a face-to-face situation. So although educational technologies could play a role there, what I've learned this semester is that it may be better to do that, a better outcome if you do that triggering event as a face-to-face situation. All right, so let's move to exploration. Want to give me a check if you think educational technologies would be better there compared to face-to-face. Yolanda says says yes, and Chris says yes. So Chris, your turn. What were you thinking about how educational technologies would improve that part of the cognitive presence wheel?
I think it's really good with exploration because each person can give input on a specific topic and at a specific time of their convenience. Whereas if it's a face-to-face classroom, you have too many people giving input on a spur-of-the-moment type of situation, and you may be overshadowed in what you're trying to explain or yourself, or you may have an idea later on after the class has already been taken place, where you as a technology you can still give that input when you have that idea that's fresh in your mind or when it's most convenient for you.
Yeah, I think you grasp it. It's a time where you may not have the idea right then. You may need to contemplate or think about it. And actually, research that Garrison quoted was that the online educational technologies are really better here to expand and sustain the discussion that was developed in the triggering phase. Let's go to integration. Want to give me a check if you think educational technologies would be improvement over face-to-face? Got a check from Chris. And Yolanda, great. Okay, I'll clear them out. Yeah, here again, in the integration phase, online and other educational technologies have the advantage over face-to-face because it encourages more reflective and thoughtful in discourse, more metacognition, and you're, I guess the concept is that you're more likely mm, um, to reveal what you know or reveal what you don't know in a online situation than you would with face to face. So let's move to the resolution phase. Do you think face-to-face or educational technologies would be better there? Check if it's educational. Or X if it's not. Oh, you both say great. Okay. Well, here I say, and this is again from the Garrison book that they quote research that suggests that this is better placed in the face-to-face situation. So both the triggering phase where you get things started and the resolution phase are seem to be more efficient and more effectively done face-to-face rather than in the we're using educational uh, online sources. So I think what we've ended up with here is with a blended learning concept, and maybe we kind of came through the back door. But the concept, the idea is that by using online educational technologies for the correct tasks or for the appropriate tasks, the educational transaction becomes more efficient and possibly has better outcomes too. And by the way, this can also be a means of introducing the value of educational technology to those faculty that may be a little reticent to try this, what they may view as disruptive to their standard modus operandi. Now, the things that I've just mentioned here with regard to educational technologies and the practical inquiry concepts has been shown to be beneficial through research. What is missing though at this point are any data that looks further at the long-term retention of material that's delivered through this blended versus all face-to-face courses. So there does seem to be better. The students feel that they've learned it better. They enjoy the course better. They do as good, if not better, in terms of their grades, but long-term isn't quite established yet. So that's what I have today. Sorry I went as long as I did, but let's go quickly through our summary. Both looking at the survey that was done, both the administrators and the educators agree on the potential advantages of the educational technologies, and they also think that it's worth the cost. Both of these groups. Where they disagree is whether there are advantages to this over face-to-face learning. And the difference perhaps may be due to some degree to the low percentage of educators who have actually used online learning in their courses. Research has shown that well-designed blended curricula are more efficient and effective models for education transaction, and this may be a path for introducing educational technologies to find it to those who may find it disruptive to their normal teaching activities. That's all that is for tonight. Thanks for your attention and for your input. And until next time, that's all I will have. Thanks. See you later.